Good morning. How are you? I think I'll finish with what we have started there, and then a bit of writing we would have. The topic that we were talking about was dominant caste. రంగస్థలం సినిమా చూసారు కదా? రంగస్థలం, వెరీ గుడ్. Those of you who did not watch the movie, if not in theatre, I think piracy జోడే చేయొద్దు. పైరసీ మాకు నచ్చదు. వెరీ గుడ్. అప్ టు డేట్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అసలు ఎక్కడ తగ్గట్లేదు. అమెజాన్ ప్రైమ్లో ఉందంట, చూడండి. పాస్వర్డ్ తీసుకోండి, చూసుకోండి. అండ్ కరెక్టే. Going back to where we have stopped, what makes a caste dominant was the inquiry made by him. His primary study was in Rampura. We would be noting down a lot of case studies there. See, in the threefold categorization, one chart you have drawn in the beginning: high caste, middle or cultivating caste, and the low caste. Generally, there is no problem for the low caste. You have nothing to lose. You have no place down to go. You have gone enough there. The problem is for the man at the top. He is in a risky position. He has to constantly see to it that he is there in that position. Sleepless nights. That too when several forces are coming up, challenging his authority. And when he was a ritually purer fellow, when ritual aspects are challenged, his authority also goes challenged. But apart from that, when the middle level populations, that is cultivating classes, cultivating castes, when they are getting benefited because of various other things, and then because cultivating castes have started to get those riches so that they can challenge the upper fellows, there is a definite tussle there. And we always say this in the discipline: when there is something like a violence, when there is dissatisfaction with something that is changing, don't take it from a negative side. Violence many times signifies positive things. I'm not promoting violence, of course. See, if somebody is trying to move up, and the upper caste or upper dominant families there, if they are trying to eliminate or push down the ones that are trying to move up, it means that the people down below are struggling to move up. That's a positive thing. And it is also positive because the one sitting at the top is really feeling that insecurity. Because of that insecurity, he is trying to try every possible mechanism, every possible move to stand there at the top. The problem is there is no space at the top. As you are moving down, there is huge amount of space. But in the small space, if more than one class or caste has to stay there, it becomes a challenge. So naturally, one would be pushed down, only one fellow could be there at the top. Keeping that in mind, Srinivas was trying to give us good lot of good lot of things there. Land, numbers, political clout, Western education, place in the local caste hierarchy. There was one field worker by name Andre Bettelli. Andre Bettelli was studying the BJP regime, as I was saying. Two or three challenges here, sir. As far as this person is concerned, Bettelli was of the opinion that irrespective of at what level you are, either at the village level or regional or at the national level, what is common is caste. And people of course say that maybe it was a coincidence that in the particular party regime, ministries from that particular party were formed. It could be from that caste were formed. It could be a mere coincidence. We keep that aside. Going back to Srinivas, when he was trying to give us characteristics of dominant caste, what he felt was that even today, even in 1950s, agricultural land was considered important, and fertile land, after all, was a prerogative of the upper caste. So maybe whoever is having more fertile land, they had the first opportunity of becoming a dominant one. Here there are a couple of things which were largely criticized by the critics. There were certain statements which were made by Srinivas that looked to be generalizations and that were challenged. One statement he made very clearly was that some relative position in the local ritual hierarchy, I think that I haven't written in those, the place in the local caste hierarchy, or ritual position in the local hierarchy is important in deciding the status of the position of a caste. If I am taking it much further, what he clearly mentions was untouchables cannot become dominant caste, because they are not in the ritual hierarchy at all. They are down below there, and there are no opportunities provided to them. And he made it very clear that the untouchables cannot become dominant. This was his first thing. See, yesterday when I was talking about Srinivas' personality, etc., I made a point there. That from time to time he would change his perspective. If somebody finds a mistake, somebody points out something in his way of working in the concept or the loopholes, he would try to accommodate them. So one of the things he made a point and then he altered his own perspective was whether scheduled caste can become the dominant fellows. That was what was demonstrated in that movie. The lower caste, actually, because of whatever may be the reason, maybe the education that you are getting, maybe the reservations that you are getting, or may also be that the huge numbers that you have, the numbers do matter. When you are in democracy, numbers do matter. Previously, maybe one or two royal families used to be there in that region. Rest of the people were from the other castes or classes. They were actually serving the Raja as if he was the representative of God. Now that will not help. He single-handedly cannot win the election with those 2-3 royal families that are there, and hence numbers become very, very important. And hence, the areas which you were not visiting till now, you enter those areas, you would touch the people whom you never touched, you would kiss them, ammalaku, ayyalaku, and you touch them, you kiss them, and then maybe perhaps you even clean the noses of the children there. And then maybe perhaps secretly you would wash your hand with Dettol. That was also captured in one of the నాకు తెలియదు, అది నిజంగా జరిగింది. యాక్చువల్లీ రంగం సినిమాలో చూపించాడు అంతే. నిజంగా ఎవరో ఒక ఆయన చేస్తేనే కదా కనబడేది. So basically, untouchability becomes a psychological phenomena rather than a physical phenomena. You are no doubt going there, working with them, touching them, eating with them, which you would never do. So commensality gets challenged now. You are sitting there in the same row, in their house, eating in their vessels, and then eating the food that they are making. You may vomit the moment you come out, but then you are eating because there are flashes there, cameras there. You are supposed to show to the rest of the world that you are doing it heartfully. The best of the performers we see in the politics there. And then you have this. All this is because at the end of the day you would want to be at the top, numbers are important. But one statement that was challenged by several people, including S.C. Dubey, was the lower caste, whether they can become dominant or not. Now, I would want to focus a bit on that. Dominance does not always mean that you are there at the top. Dominance does not always mean that you are there at the top. I would explain what it is. See, if a caste person wants to win the election, in his constituency, when huge number of lower caste Dalits are there, it becomes mandatory for him to pacify them, to win them. This is the first level of achieving dominance. Low caste, though its strata did not change, though it is still remaining in the caste hierarchy, it had won the position by creating an importance for itself. That's the first stage. Are you with me, sir? Are you with me, sir? Second thing is, when in the context of reservations, etc., when you can field your people, adentadi MLA Dharmaraju, sir, Mohan Babu, chodleda, MLA Dharmaraju, cinema pe raskoni chodandi intikelli. Generally what happens is, whenever elections were fought, elections were between two landlords. And when that constituency gets into reserved constituency, you cannot contest. You A and B, the landlords cannot contest. On the other hand, what you do is your immediate assistant would be fielded in the election. Padapaleru. Your immediate assistants would be. Actually, your assistants are fighting the election, representing you, but you are the ones who are fighting the election. If they have won, it means that you have won. So at least in the first 5 years, when a Dalit had won the election, in the first term, maybe he would not be aware of all the nitty-gritties of the governance, the administration, the signing of documents, passing of funds, etc., etc. Maybe for every small thing he would be taking the help of the landlord, so he would be rather more affected, influenced by him. The same logic would also go well with female reserved constituencies also. The husband is fielding the female. It's like, if the husband is an anthropologist, wife would become anthropologist. Similarly, if husband is an MLA or MP, wife will also be partly politician only. At some place she would also be fielded, and initially she might be depending on you for all the signing, passing, etc. But by the time the second term comes, the fellow already knows. And he already came to know that the landlord is not even a rubber stamp in the whole process. He understands that he need not have to depend on the landlord, and hence he would start to wield the power. So it really is a transformation of the low caste into a high caste or the dominant caste. In the first one I said, when your numbers became important in democracy, when the upper caste fellow is seeking your help to remain there, your dominance begins. And in the case of you yourself participating in the election and fighting the election, you have almost won the battle, wherein the landlord would remain less than a rubber stamp. Thirdly, if at all the low caste becomes so important that the upper caste would start claiming the lower caste status. That would be the ultimate dominance a lower caste can achieve. That is the third level. That's what, when we are claiming scheduled caste status being an upper caste or an OBC status being a forward caste, it means that though you are born in an upper caste, you want to relinquish all those tags associated with the upper caste, and you want to be recognized as a low caste. That is the third one. I hope I have said to you. So Srinivas, though initially, when he said that lower caste cannot become a dominant one, he over a period of time, he understands with the criticisms of people like Dubey and others, he accepts that lower caste can also be a dominant caste. Nevertheless, they may not become so very ritually the same. Your ritual purity may not be improved, but then the treatment the society gives to you because of your position might change. Maybe when time permits, you can have a look at from which caste group a minister is chosen appointed for the Ministry of Endowments. For the endowments ministry, is it that we are appointing somebody like a Muslim, somebody like a Christian, or a Dalit, or is it that only a Brahmin is appointed as an endowment minister? The day when we have a Muslim or a Christian or a Dalit being appointed there as a minister for endowment, we can say that even in the ritual purity, the Dalits are becoming equal to the upper caste. Did I? So that is, I think, the one that still has to emerge in the future, maybe, perhaps. Am I clear to you, sir? Everybody fine? Fine. Second thing is about Srinivas. He was very clear that across regions and across time dominant caste changes. There are efforts of Sanskritization, or people try to move horizontally into the other regions, maybe transport and communication kind of things. They might try to escape the village, shift their residence. When they are shifting the residence, it is possible that the dominant caste status might change. We would be looking at it in the caste mobility. Here I would want to focus on one. That is, for people like Dubey and huge lot of other people, one criticism they leveled against Srinivas' concept of dominant caste was that not the entire caste is dominant. Not the entire caste is dominant. See, Srinivas was giving this concept in 1950s. There were several criticisms against him. He was looking at it practically, mostly in Mysore region, and he was trying to get examples from the rest of the country that, see, these are the dominant castes that we are having. At some places like in Lucknow region, where Muslim castes were becoming dominant. So there he was trying to reflect on that. See, regionally sometimes, even religious groups and certain sects would become dominant. So what is a reference group? Meaning dominant caste is at any point of time is a reference group. People would want to move up by imitating them. So every time it need not be a Sanskritic group or the upper caste, the caste group of Hinduism, but occasionally it can be a Muslim sect also, or maybe Christian sect also, like in Kerala, where the lower castes are trying to move up by looking at this. So he was accommodative that way. Nevertheless, most of his focus was on Hindus. He did not do it intentionally. We have to understand that when more than 80% of the Indian population is Hindus, a social change cannot be understood without focusing on them. It's not really possible that you focus on all the groups simultaneously. He was taking the predominant one that was available. And hence people criticized that you are focusing on Hindu alone. This criticism of focusing on Hindu alone continued with him in the concept of Sanskritization also, on which I am going to give a briefing today itself. But he accommodated changes. He accommodated, Christians, he accommodated other dominant groups, but he was very clear that I was not being partial to Hindu. I was trying to look at the dominant trends that were going on in the society. Second thing is, when people criticized that it is not simply for the general criticism was that it is not that the entire caste was dominant, only a few people in the caste were dominant. Only a few people in the caste were dominant. The discussions actually go very interestingly there, because the giver of the concept was alive, and in front of him when you were criticizing, how gracefully he was trying to explain to you. So each one of the critics were picking up one particular idea. Some people said that it is only some families in a caste that were dominant, or maybe it was only some individuals that were dominant, or maybe certain lineages were dominant, or maybe certain factions alone were dominant. It is never the entire caste that was dominant. Srinivas was very much clear. He mentions it, that he never said that the entire caste was dominant. See, it all depends on how you understand between the lines. రాజుగారు రెండో భార్య మంచిది అంటే మొదటి భార్య మంచిది కాదని కాదు కదా. So you should not understand it that way. He was communicating that, see, a caste may become dominant because of these things. Suppose when people said that it is only a few individuals that are dominant, it is not the entire caste. See, the flow of things might begin with a single individual. So some of us, say we come from a Dalit family, and say we get into civil services with a beautiful rank, and what you do after getting the rank, that decides whether the dominance is remaining at the individual or it is percolating downwards. Generally that happens, maybe you come from a Dalit family, your father made you a doctor. His idea was that many of the caste people, low caste people, were dying in the village because of not having a hospital. His dream was you construct a hospital there. Or maybe you become an officer and take care of the community. You went to the training academy, or maybe you finished your medicine, and then something happens there, and then you got into the upper caste lady out there, and maybe it may be that her father was also a doctor who has a multi-speciality hospital. He wanted you to be there. And then you thought that, okay, I wouldn't establish the hospital here, it would be an expensive thing, or maybe that you were very happy with that he could influence your cadre, and hence a very upside fellow there, maybe a secretary to Government of India, and hence you thought that things would be. So many movies I said to you there. Finally, what happened? Once you have crossed that barrier of the exam, you are actually not looking back to your people. You have used all of them as steps on the ladder, and then you are stamping on them and moving up, forgetting the sacrifices there, what they must have done. And then finally it is only the individual that becomes dominant there. You are not really mindful of others. You even forgot that you belong to that particular caste group. That's how it is. That is, the individual is not actually transmitting his dominance to the others. It is never the entire caste is dominant. It is never the entire caste is rich. Never the entire caste group is poor. So though we say that castes are homogeneous largely, there is a lot of non-homogeneity there. Every individual family, lineage, etc., they have their own levels of facilities, economics, whatsoever, based on which their dominance is decided. It's only that when you are getting into certain riches, whether you call cultural, ritual riches, or political, economic riches, how you are sharing those riches with your community, by which you are actually trying it possible for larger group to become dominant rather than restricting it to your own self. Even when you are trying to share them with the others, it is not really possible that the entire caste group would. Maybe in that particular village, in that particular region, you are seeing to it that your people are trying to move, are successfully trying to move up the ladder. I hope you understand. And second very interesting thing, which I would really love the student to write in the exam, is All those people who were criticizing the dominant caste thing, Srinivas makes a comment there. Suppose I did not give the concept of dominant caste, what would you do? You are criticizing because I have given you the concept of dominant caste. Even in criticizing the concept, you are using the concept. Criticisms apart. So basically, sometimes what happens is, if we have decided and if we want to criticize, we would be criticizing anything and everything. So we should never aim that the 100% acceptance should be there. When I address the class of 100 people, I don't think that the 100 people would be having the same kind of an acceptance with me. There would be different levels. Some people are totally antagonistic, some people may be more than necessarily in favor, some people may be mediocre, do not know where to stand, kind of a thing. It's very important to understand that 100% acceptance would not come for any kind of a concept. He gracefully accepts that. That was. But even today, when ritualistic Hinduism is not so very closely implemented, even today the concept of dominant caste still prevails, meaning that the dominance has been exhibiting itself in several ways. Like how we said, caste is changing its forms from time to time. At some places it is becoming stronger, at some places it is becoming weaker. Dominant castes also are emerging with a combination. When he was giving all that, in a combination, the criteria were changing. So among all of them, maybe ritual significance is having a lesser importance than the rest of the ones. And hence it is giving an opportunity for the Dalits to scale the heights. Nevertheless, if you go to the corners of the country, if you go to the heartlands, rural heartlands, you still see that this kind of a tendency exists. That is the reason why people would want to migrate from the villages, go to the urban centers where people might not ask so much about the caste. One example I would give there. What we popularly have seen in our villages, a Nai family, Barber Nai family, general typical setup of the Nai in the village. If you could recall, under the tree you would sit with a very Paleolithic razor, and then the client would come, and then maybe you're also sitting down on the floor, the client would sit. Or at the most you have some kind of a chair with 3 legs, and on one side you have some bricks being placed under that, and then you are sitting on that chair and getting a hair done, kind of a thing. The same kind of a haircut for everybody, irrespective of caste whatsoever. Nai is a very highly untouchable fellow. Only for some kind of marriages, for some duties he would come. Maybe a drum beater he is. The respect that he would get is not so much. And hence, his son decided that he would shift to the urban area. In the urban area, he establishes a beauty salon. He doesn't call it a haircutting shop. He calls it a beauty salon. Or these days, you call spas also, with all that whatever. And then, so nobody is actually bothered about from which caste the spa giver is. I don't think you would ask, I don't think you would ask. And I'm sure he would also be not advertising himself as such. He is not naming it there, that so-and-so caste haircutting saloon. Actually, haircutting saloons, the fashion has gone actually. I think it is mostly maybe a beauty shop, beauty saloon and kind of a thing. Beauty sells the most, and hence Nais are one of the richest fellows now in the urban centers. So much so that looking at those riches, see, any other shops, any other businesses may have ups and downs, but the beauty shops would never. With the increasing consciousness for the beauty, the shops would always be filled with the customers, and money would be just flowing there. And hence, even the upper castes are becoming progressive fellows. The upper castes are becoming progressive fellows, and it's no wonder that maybe a Brahmin, maybe another upper caste individual would, now we call it with different titles. We call them with something like fashion, क्या था वो? What courses are they? Huh? Fashion technology, whatever, no? But basically, you are trying to learn these things. You wouldn't mind touching whatever caste fellow walking in. You are a caste Brahmin, but then you are trying to do that. You are giving a haircut, you are doing a massage, and then I don't know where your ritual purity has gone. So everything boils down to who is dominant. At the end of the day, that becomes dominant until you go back to your village for a participation in a religious ritual. Whatever you do in the urban center throughout the year, on the day when you have a Gram Devata Puja there, when you go back, how much ever rich you are in the urban center, running a chain of beauty salons or whatsoever, when you go there, you do the same ceremonial drumming. And whatever you are, being a Brahmin here in the urban center, maybe you are running a tannery here, maybe you are running a chapel shop here, once you go there, you suddenly become pure. Things are changing. That's what is the reality. And then so basically what makes dominance is changing. Dominant caste is a reality, but the criteria of giving dominance to them keeps on changing from time to time. Ritual purity, ritual hierarchy has its own limits. Ritual purity and hierarchy also is bounded by the place where you are and then the time at which you are. Keep this in mind. I would want to say certain things. Maybe I would first finish off giving a note on the dominant caste, and then we would write about the future of caste. Then I'll take you to one concept of Brahmanization, which later was called as Sanskritization. Basic facts I have given. What was the book or essay in which the concept was given? Dominant caste in? Dominant caste in? Dominant caste in Rampura was the first booklet was the first essay where, so keep writing, sir. The concept of dominant caste was given by M.N. Srinivas based on his field study in Mysore state, and presented in the article, in the essay, Dominant caste in Rampura, 1959. With a focus on studying social change. Underline the word social change. Employing structural functional perspective. Of R.C. Brown. Srinivas examined how the general and particular social structure was changing. Full stop. He explored the changing intercaste relations and changing the location of different castes in the local caste hierarchy, in the local caste hierarchy. Continue there. At a time when a ritual position alone was not sufficient to make a caste dominant, he proposed the following criteria to make a caste dominant. Number 1, access to agricultural land. Second, a relative position in the local caste hierarchy, from the ritual sense. Thirdly, numerical supremacy. Fourthly, political clout. Number 5, access to Western education. Number 6, jobs in administration. The last two, right in the next paragraph, the last two were added later, incorporating the constitutional provisions related to education and employment. Right in the next paragraph. His field studies indicated that every region or village has its own dominant caste. That is, caste hierarchy varies regionally and temporally. For example, Okkaligas in Karnataka claimed dominance by challenging the Lingayat Brahman supremacy. Continue writing there. Access to fertile lands, and other secular features made this possible. Some more examples I have given there. Kamma and Reddy in the regions of Andhra and Telangana respectively. Kshatriyas in Western India. Kshatriyas in Western India. Nayars and Syrian Christians in Kerala. Nayars and Syrian Christians in Kerala. Nadar and Kotar in Tamil Nadu. Meenas in large tracts of North India. Meenas in large tracts of North India. Meenas in large tracts of North India. Keep writing there. Maybe you can keep writing in the bullet points there. For Srinivas initially, position in the ritual hierarchy was a crucial criteria to decide the position of a caste, and hence he opined that opined, O-P-I-N-E-D, opined that the scheduled caste can never be a dominant caste. Similar opinion, continue there, similar opinion he carried on in describing the concepts of Sanskritization. Right, in the next paragraph, in the same point. Responding to the criticism and based on the politico-social developments of post-1950s, he introduced a Dalit model of Sanskritization. And hence concluded that every caste, irrespective of a ritual hierarchy, can become dominant. Irrespective of ritual hierarchy can become dominant. In this context, he explained dominance of a caste from three perspectives. Right in the brackets, in special reference to Dalit communities. Number one, the possibility of the low caste influencing the upper caste contender, in the election, due to their sheer numbers, Secondly, with the use of reservations, etc., the low caste fighting election by itself, Thirdly, due to the benefits of being a low caste, several upper castes trying to claim a low caste status. Keep writing there, write a side head. Functions of dominant caste. Firstly, dominant castes often act as reference models to the low caste groups. That is, the lower castes imitate the upper caste behavior, ritual pattern, customs, etc. Continue there. Thus facilitating cultural transmission or diffusion. Put a stop there. We'll forget dominant caste for some time. We'll talk something else and come back to continue writing the functions. Look at chapter 6, paper 1. Second school there, school of diffusion. What's the written? Hanji sir? British, German and American schools, diffusion. What do you understand by diffusion generally? Spread. Suppose I say that some cultural things have spread. Say maybe one of the aspects may be religion. This could be several others, technology, etc. But suppose I consider a religion, which comes easy for us to explain. If religion has spread from one place to the other, two questions arise. One is, so it's like if something has spread from A to B, first of all there has to be a confirmation whether it has spread or not. If from A it has spread to B, what makes us, if it spreads from A to B, does it mean that A is the inventor of that? Number one. Okay, secondly, if at all I say that B has borrowed from A, how can I prove? Are you following what I am saying? Any cultural things, one question people pondered over was that if you are getting from A, B is getting from A, is A the inventor? This is one. Second one is, if I say that B has borrowed from A, B has copied from A, diffusion had occurred to B, what is a proof that it has got from A? It must be from somewhere else also. But then how is it that you are concluding that from A you are getting? This is the other question. Thirdly, on what basis I borrow from A? Why should I borrow from A alone? Why is it not that from B A is getting? Are you getting my questions? If I have to copy from somebody, if I have to borrow from somebody, from whom will I borrow? From whom will I copy things? Something better. And something you do not have, something better, and yes, ma'am? Okay. If they are getting more respect than what I am getting in the society, okay, great. Meaning, in other words, are they superior to you in some sense? One thing is, I am copying, I am getting from them because I don't have. Second thing could be that I have, but I don't have such a supremacy there. Whatever things that I am having, with those things I am not able to get the same respect which they are getting. Maybe they are superior. Okay, and it's more attractive. See, when you are copying, it is not necessary that it should be useful. Every time you don't go by the use of it. Many times you go by the fashion. So irrespective of the use, what attracts you, or because of that I might be getting respect or attention of the others, maybe I am accepting that. So remember, any time when you are copying from others, you copy for different reasons. And the other question there, how do you prove that I have copied? Similarities are there, and what kinds of similarities? Through literature, okay.
When there's some interaction and before and after, we can see a distinction.
Okay, before and after. So you should have an account of before also. Suppose I don't have. I only have after record. You copied any time in the exam? Objective or subjective? Both. So if anybody could prove that you have copied. So maybe when you are writing a subjective paper, they would see where you have put a comma, whether the sentence is right, whether the pictures are right, etc. maybe. But suppose in an MCQ based exam, to prove that you have copied, same options, same mistakes. Right answer is right for everybody, is the same for everybody. Wrong answers are your own USP. Wrong answers are your own special choices. So if I say that you have marked the same wrong answers, so if same wrong answers are written, then I can say that it's a copying, rather than saying that see the same right answers are there. No, same wrong answers prove with authenticity that you have copied. But still it doesn't prove that A was the giver. See, if you are looking at A and B, both of you are making same mistakes. Somebody has copied from somebody. Who is copying from whom, we cannot prove. Unless otherwise one is a Muslim, the other is not. Whatever Muslim title you have written in the beginning, this fellow is copying that also. Jnanam chusara. Heights of... So, in diffusion what happens is, we have to understand that cultures are not static. Cultures constantly change. Cultures change maybe because of spread of your own self or because of you getting from the others. And when you are getting, many times, you may copy certain things. I wanted to actually introduce one idea for which I have given all this, but then diffusionistic school is a very huge one. I am only taking one idea so that you can ponder over it during the weekend. That idea is, you have to focus on that. If an insignificant cultural element is same, it confirms imitation. Write the sentence, you can meditate on that. If an insignificant cultural element is same, if an insignificant cultural element is same, it confirms imitation or copying. If an insignificant cultural element is same, it indicates copying. Like the example that I have said. Significant is correct one, insignificant is wrong one. Insignificant one is same. So in the culture if I am applying, say two human societies are there. They are having certain similarities. For example, both of them, if I am taking very mundane things, both of them have some kind of eating. Both of them eat something. Just because both of them are eating, I cannot say that they have copied. But I have to go into the details. What you are eating. Meaning maybe the cuisine is same. Or maybe the eating habits are same. The way you are serving is same. So if you go into the intricate details there, or for that matter, for example, if you have something like two island societies are there, two island societies. Any island society would by default have some kind of a boat or the other. Or we use another word here, small boats, we call them canoes. Teppal antar, canoes, very small boats. You must have seen, Sri Shailam here and there. If you go into the reservoir, the round one, in which you, so generally in the weekends we go so that we get a good fish and come back kind of a 3-hour drive, you go and come. Canoes. Whenever you are an island society, a small island or maybe a coastal community, you tend to depend on some kind of a boat or canoe or the other. Just because you are depending on a canoe, you are manufacturing canoe, it doesn't mean that you have copied. In order to prove copying, you will have to go into the details. That is, maybe the shape of the canoe, the material you used of the canoe, or maybe what are the paintings, intricate drawings there, the shape of the paddle, the blade that you use, and maybe the color, the ochre that is used. When you are going into all this, these are of secondary significance. Secondary significance. What color you are painting doesn't actually affect how well you can steer the boat. But then it communicates that, see, I have a link with somebody else. This is what we call a proof of diffusion. Are you following what I am saying? I will give you one beautiful other example. If you compare Buddhism in Tibet, Buddhism in India, in order to prove from whom you have copied, see the earlier example is whether you have copied or not. If insignificant ones are same, it's a proof that you have copied. The other question is from whom you have copied. Meaning, from whom when I am saying this, who is A? Who is the superior fellow? Who is the one that is having that particular trait? In order to prove who is A, this example helps. In the concept of Buddhism, of Tibet versus India, how can we prove that India was the giver of Buddhism. And Tibet had copied from us. I don't know history. I'm not going into history. I know currently what is happening. Currently what I'm worshipping, what I'm doing in their faith and what they are doing in the faith. Tibet versus India. So we know historically that he was born in our country and from there he whatever, and then kings actually focused on Tibet. They thought that because we are the giver of religions, maybe we would retain Buddhism. But later we found that Buddha vanished from India and then he is found elsewhere. It shows that you are not supposed to take it for granted. Anything you should not take for granted, including your God. If you take him for granted, he would vanish. How do you prove? Ma? Indian? Practices, rituals, बताइए और much more closely. Because they come to Bodh Gaya, maybe, okay. Ji sir, said something? The way you perform rituals, same agarbatti, same kind of a thing. Type of dress. Same color. The way of praying. Namaskara, Sashtanga Namaskara. Maybe all of them, I don't know. But I'm looking at one. నేను చెప్తాను ఇప్పుడు నేను చెప్తాను నాకు కూడా అవకాశం ఇస్తే సభాముఖంగా whatever I am giving in the next couple of statements that was given by a field worker from diffusionistic school, he might not have given importance to all this, your namaskara, your agarbatti, etc. He was looking at certain symbols used in Buddhism. You know the symbols in Buddhism, right? Every symbol has got its own significance. For example, you have horse is there, horse. Horse is a symbol of he leaving the house and so it actually whatever titles you are giving for that. Similarly, you have several other titles. One of the symbols used there is lotus. Now, lotus struck this man. His name I did not want to use in the class, but I am using. He is called Ratzel, R-A-T-Z-E-L. Ratzel was that diffusionist who studied Buddhism in India and Tibet. Ratzel. He found this interesting, that lotus, which is not a native flower of Tibet, you don't see that in the natural ecosystem of Tibet, but still you are using it, meaning that something that is strange for your region, you are using that. Something that is strange for your region, you are using that. So this shows that diffusion has happened from the region where lotus may be existing. So that could be a proof that the religion has come from outside. It's as simple as, don't get me wrong, when I give the following example. The problem is with claiming an identity. So you converted to Christianity, and in the hot summer, mid-April and May, marriages generally happen then, and you are wearing a three-piece suit. It's almost like you die in that suit. You are there in a very tropical region, very sultry. Why do you think in India, in the time of marriages, we wear not more than a lungi or a pancha, and then the upper garment, only to formally make a coverage there? We don't wear it actually. Then, because it has to be more airy. You have to be more area. Our marriages are so very crowded. You have 1,001 guests there, much more than that. More are the guests, more are the blessings for us. More are the guests, more are the blessings for us. And then amidst so many people, when you are getting married, such a suffocation there, so much of carbon dioxide, you can't breathe actually. Your body would want some kind of a fresh air, and hence these are the comfortable things designed in the culture. I give you one very beautiful example. If you want, you can retain in the camera otherwise. How cultures differ. In my recent field study, I was trying to cover marriage there. So I had one interlocutor who was a Sardarji, a very old time Sardarji, stayed there for a long time. So he was trying to help me out in that. So he took me for one marriage ceremony there. Very interesting thing. I found that the Australian native aboriginals gave importance to mate with a single fellow. And there was a formal relationship. If you see currently, the institution of marriage almost has disappeared. Marriages rarely happen. You cohabit and then you have children, big fellows, and then you have a separation, you have a series of marriages, one after the other. In spite of all, so this whole thing, what I found was that link with the Europeans, migration of the Europeans into the Australian continent, it had changed the way the Aboriginal was looking at marriage. There is nothing like a marriage anymore. So I found, who is the primitive fellow? Is it the Aboriginal or the Westerner who moved in there? I don't want to conclude on that, but then. So I was actually looking at this one marriage ceremony. You don't invite many guests actually. Guests are hardly there. The couple walks out of, comes down from a car. Along with them, maybe a videographer, a cameraman would be there, and nothing more than that. And then the lady would have along that thing, so that one fellow would catch hold of it. So both of them would come down into the grass, and then videographer picks pictures, and then these two people try to exchange the rings, etc., and marriage is done. Photo clicks, and then. Now the big puzzle for Indians is kahan hai? Because irrespective of whether you have attended the marriage rituals or not, first you go for this. If the queue to give blessings to the couple is too very long, you in the meantime finish your food, and then you would see whether it is possible. Lamba queue hai, dur se ja rahe bhaiya, ho gaya chalo, kind of a thing, and then we would meet later. Many times you must have done this. Many times you must not even have spoken to the bride and bridegroom. But then, and the family also takes it very prestigiously. उनसे बाद में मिलना, पहले तक खा लो, फिर बाद में, kind of a thing. दिल में आप बोले हम उसी के लिए तो आए हैं, kind of. And you finish your thing. Now the thing there is, Sardarji said, if you are invited for a marriage here, you better avoid, because you end up paying your own lunch bill. They would invite you for a marriage dinner, but then you will pay for your own dinner there. So it doesn't actually, it looks so very shocking for us. आप किसी के शादी में जा रहे, they have invited, and then you have to actually pay for whatever you have eaten there. It is very so un-Indian kind of a thing. For us, we should have thousands of people for whom we would be serving food, sumptuous one. Even if you will have to sell away your assets, you won't mind. But then you will have to get a compliment from them that khana bahut acha tha. For generations, people have to remember the sambar you made. That is how you actually try to. And then I thought that he was actually joking. Incidentally, his brother's wedding was there. So, when we were there, whoever the white fellows were invited, they were coming and asking, where should I pay? And this man, because he's a very seasoned fellow, he was saying, no, nothing like that. In our culture, it is not that way. We feed you. And everybody was so very surprised. Because, when you go to there for a marriage, you pay for your own beer, you pay for your own whatever you have eaten. For them, this looks to be a shocking thing. If somebody is paying for a lunch for you, it means that he's giving away his life, because their life lives in the dollar. It's as simple as it is. I'm not stating here whose culture is superior, whose is inferior. But then it is also a statement that when marriage itself is vanishing, if they are inviting you for a marriage, it's, of course, it looks to be a decent one. I mean, you pay for what you have eaten, kind of a thing. There are no free lunches in this world. But India has, kind of. We were there somewhere. I was talking about diffusion to confirm whether diffusion has occurred or not, why you copy, cultural diffusion, etc. I am using these words here in the context of dominant caste because cultural diffusion might occur from outside your own culture or within your own culture. Cultural diffusion might occur from outside your culture or from within your culture. In the context of dominant caste, you are trying to imitate the dominant caste and trying to change your social status. It means that the dominant caste is helping in the process of cultural diffusion. Sir, it is here, I would want to introduce this concept of Brahmanization, then I would come back here. Sir, in explaining social change in India, Srinivas was using this concept of Brahmanization, books, etc. We will later write down from which book and essay, etc. He was initially of the opinion that Brahmin is the fellow who is at the top. And everybody would want to imitate a Brahmin only. The process of imitating a Brahmin, and who is imitating? It may be the lower Varnas, it may be the lower castes. The lower castes or lower Varnas who are trying to imitate the Brahmin in order to change their social position, we call it Brahmanization. In the process of Brahmanization, what do you do? Whatever the Brahmanical living is, you try to imitate that. It may be giving up non-vegetarian, it may be giving up alcohol, it may be giving up reducing the freedoms of women, or it may be restricting yourself to the ritualistic way of life and your pantheon, etc. Maybe trying to adopt the rituals such as Upanayana and the death rituals also. When all this is being imitated, you imitate and then you make a claim. But then later, when people criticize it, see, it is not simply Brahmin that is dominant. So in the sequence, if you observe, in the sequence of things to occur, first he comes up with the Brahmanization concept. Then he studies dominant caste. Because of the study of dominant caste, he changes the title Brahmanization to Sanskritization. Are you following what I am saying? So that's the reason why I said to you, whenever he was giving a concept, people were criticizing him, he was respectfully trying to modify the concepts. So he starts with Brahmanization, then he gives dominant caste. In dominant caste concept, he found that across the country, we have different castes that are at the superior position. And whichever caste is there at the superior position, that works as a model for imitation for the lower fellows. Are you with me? Are you with me? Now, when he was changing the word to Sanskritization, keep this in mind so that later we would make a note. The process of Sanskritization, what he meant was that the lower castes or Varnas or tribes, the lower caste, Varna or tribe, imitating the upper Varna or caste, mostly Dvija, and claiming an upper Varna or caste status, we call it Sanskritization. I repeat what I said. The lower caste, Varna, or a tribe trying to imitate the upper caste or Varna, which is generally a Dvija, and making a claim for the upper Varna or caste status is Sanskritization. Did you understand? I repeat what I said. The lower caste, tribe or varna imitating the upper caste or varna, which is generally Dvija, and making a claim for the status of upper caste or varna is Sanskritization. In that definition, the definition looks to be much more broader. You are actually giving a chance to the tribes also to move up. It may be a lower caste, tribe or a lower varna, imitating the upper caste or varna. Imitating, you are saying, imitating and making a claim is Sanskritization. Making a claim. Whether you have reached there or not, that is immaterial. Sanskritization meaning you are making an effort to move up. You are copying somebody at the top and saying that, see, I am also that. Whether you are successfully moving up or not, that is depending on how the society is taking you. Are you okay, sir? This particular thing, many students, many senior fellows also do not understand this. So I'm saying again, Sanskritization is a process of imitation and making a claim alone. Sanskritization ends with your claim. Whether Sanskritization was successful or not depends on what had happened to you. Am I clear? So in yesterday's class, when Raj Gonds was discussed, that was a successful case of Sanskritization. Because whatever claim they have made, so what these people at the bottom they do is, for 2 or 3 generations they imitate. After 2 or 3 generations, they make a claim for an upper caste or varna. If the other people also accept, then you become. If the society is not accepting, you cannot. Are you fine? Now, the extension if I take from there. In that definition he mentions, generally Dvija, meaning that the definition of Sanskritization, he makes it a point that only Dvijas can be models of imitation, or only Dvijas are a reference group. Reference group in the sense, that is a group which you are taking as a model and trying to move up. By saying so, he in a way had indicated that non-Dvijas cannot be models. Non-Dvijas cannot be models. That was a time when parallelly he was writing the concept of dominant caste, wherein he said that the lower castes, especially the Dalits, cannot be dominant castes. Once he realizes with various other things in the society, how things were changing in the new constitution, etc., once he understands that even Dalits can become dominant castes, he introduces changes in his own concept of Sanskritization. He now gives a huge list of models in Sanskritization. He says it can be a Brahmanical model, it can be a Kshatriya model, it can be a Vaishya model, it can be a Sudra model, it can be an untouchable model, it can be a tribal model. Are you okay? అర్థమవుతుందా? పైనుంచి వెళ్ళిపోతుందా? Kilometers above from your head. I generally don't trouble the students much. అవునా అన్నట్టుగా చూడొద్దు. With a surprise there. Any problem? Hanji sir.
If the claim that they are making of upper caste is not being accepted by society, that is unsuccessful Sanskritization. But it is still, so that means is it still Sanskritization, or we say it is not Sanskritization?
It is Sanskritization is imitating, making a claim. Imitating, making a claim. I want to be a Rajinikanth. What I do? I flip that. I successfully do that. And maybe I successfully shoot the bullet becoming 2 and killing 2 people. I did everything. All that is Sanskritization. I made a claim, but ultimately they said you are not. That's a failure. But the process is real, my struggle is real. Any other questions? Any other questions? Nai is a hair cutter. Huh? Nai is a hair cutter. When they claimed the higher status, see, the Brahmin fellow, a poor thing, just because at one point of time, we do not know whether he had written the scripture or somebody else wrote and inke khate mein dal diya, we don't know. But somehow, at some point of time, Brahman showed his supremacy. He, maybe because he was close to the gods, he was ritually holding that position. So everybody was shooting at Brahman. In order to achieve that social status, one is you challenge him and pull him down. You insult him. You ridicule him. And maybe you mock at him. Or maybe you imitate him. You take his name. So whenever I am adding the title Brahman to my name, my caste name, it shows that I am becoming a Brahmin. I am trying to showcase. So Nai Brahmin in the sense that those people who were earlier Nais, who gave up their traditional occupation, became more ritually purer, not doing that occupation anymore, and then imitating everything else which we call Brahmanical. Along with that, I am making a title also Brahmin, calling myself a Nai Brahmin. That is a process of Sanskritization. Like how in the other class we have used one more name, Vishwakarma Brahmin. And which one?
Acting as a dominant caste and then upper caste imitating that.
Asking model, Dalit model. One general way of looking at it is when you claim the reservation, that's a general thing. We don't particularly mention here about, this is that Dalit caste I am imitating. See, when it comes to the Dvija caste, I have a particular model which I imitate in the sense of occupation, rituals, etc., and I make a claim. But when it comes to the Dalit model, I will not be relinquishing my occupation and maybe that I would become a scavenger. That would not happen. So what I would be at the most doing is that I relinquish my claim of a caste alone. And in order to be recognized as a lower caste, maybe I would project myself to be a much poorer fellow, not having the resources there. That would be one major claim that I would make. And then I would try to see to it that I get some kind of a certificate there. So, in the process of Sanskritization, I am Sanskritizing my traditions from a lower caste. But suppose an upper caste is making a Dalit model, they would not be changing their ritual position, they would not be changing their lifestyle, but they would simply make a claim. This stands to be true even in the case of a tribal, model. In the tribal model also, see, I would extend on this. If it is a tribal model, two kinds of imitations might happen. Either the lower caste might want to become a tribal, or an upper caste would want to become. If the lower caste would want to become and claim a tribe as their identity, definitely they would want to come out of the caste hierarchy, caste oppression, and hence I would want to. I was talking about the Toda in one of the other classes. The Toda have become a model of imitation in the Sanskritization process when it comes to the neighboring low castes are concerned. So low castes were trying to become pastoral, etc., trying to behave and use the traditional customs of the Todas, and then they wanted to be recognized as a Toda. Only problem they were having was that Todas are a very beautiful race when compared to the neighboring Dalits. So how much ever you imitate, looking at your face, people could understand that no, you are not a real Toda. If the upper caste has to imitate the if an upper caste has to claim a tribal status, it has to actually desanskritize itself. It has to get tribalized. But generally that was not happening. They were not getting tribalized, they were not getting desanskritized. As far as your customs are concerned, you are only making a claim on a formal paper. Did you understand, sir? Meaning that a desanskritization and sanskritization are not the opposite processes. It's not that I am accepting the Sanskritic ones and hence I am becoming Sanskritized. Similarly, it is not that in the Dalitization process is not that all the Dalit culture it's not happening that way. Sanskritization is where rituals are getting changed. In the Dalit model, you are not changing your culture, you are only trying to change your affinity on paper. Is that clear?
Without imitation, is it called Sanskritization?
Sir?
There is no imitation, only making a claim. So, is it called Sanskritization or something?
That can be seen as a variant of Sanskritization, primarily because you would want to change your overall social identity. The question that the gentleman is asking is, see, in this later process of Dalit model, you are not actually imitating, you are not actually changing the whole lot of culture, you are simply making a claim. Can we call it a Sanskritization in that? See, as far as the ultimate objective is concerned, when the ultimate objective is changing your social hierarchy, in order to change your position in the social hierarchy, when you are doing all this, this can be seen as a variant in Sanskritization. Okay, it may not be according to the definition, but it can be seen as a variant. Am I clear to you? Any other questions, sir?
Does the claim affect the ritual hierarchy?
It should. The claim affects based on what the others do to you. I'll give you one example. In Mysore state itself, in the Rampura village, and then, there's much more interesting study. Tamil Nadu, Ramanad district. In Tamil Nadu, Ramanad district, this was a study of M.N. Srinivas. The lower castes were trying to use all the benefits that the government is giving, trying to change their life. It becomes very uncomfortable for the upper caste. It becomes really uncomfortable for the upper caste. Because a few years ago when you were walking on the road, people used to empty the road. Women used to get off the road. I don't know why, but they used to get off. What was there in their mind, what you used to do, we do not know. But then people used to empty the roads because the upper caste fellow is coming. From that kind of a respectful position, suddenly people don't mind if you are walking or passing by. You are any other passerby now. Whether they do respect you, whether they, in fact, they consider you there, that's a big puzzle. And that causes a lot of heartburn. You can't tolerate it. You can't take it, actually. So, in the Ramanad district, what was happening was that the lower caste, when they were trying to change their fate, etc., the upper caste council sits and it passes a stricture, series of rules they have come up with, reinstating the erstwhile caste hierarchy, caste oppression, that, very flimsy kind of rules that used to exist that somehow vanished in the process of history, such as, I must have mentioned some of the, rules there, such as non-wearing of flowers or gold by the lower caste, non-wearing of a chappal, and then crawling from in front of the houses of the upper caste, etc. Some 8 golden rules they come up with. So what is happening there? The lower caste, when it is trying to move up, you are trying to chop their heads by doing such kind of a thing. This is one kind of a response. So they are pushed much downward than the existing position. So ritual hierarchy depends on change, not simply in the ritual hierarchy, overall situation there. It depends on how the others take. Or for that matter, some of the low castes who have fought for a temple entry, especially in southern India, when they were successful, it means that the doors were open now for the low castes, which were not really allowed to enter the prahara of the temple earlier. Now they are able to do that. They are able to get into the temple and all kinds. So this is successful. So if you are very clearly asking about a ritual status, now the ritual status has definitely changed when the God is accessible to you. Any other question? Did you?
Not when lower castes are moving upwards. When an upper caste is making a claim for lower caste, then what will be the change in their ritual hierarchy?
One thing is, he wouldn't take a major step if at all he is going to lose a lot on the ritual stuff. A simple example of secular Laukika Brahmins. When I say that they are entering into the poultry farms, etc., definitely I don't think he is the son of a pujari. I don't think he is the son of a pujari. A priest is not doing that. So you would see what are the stakes involved. If huge stakes are there, I am sure you wouldn't do it. Just because I am going to get something monetarily, I would not do something that would harm my ritual status. Because at the end of the day, ritual status matters. At least when you are a Brahmin. Okay, so people would tread very carefully there. It's a very intelligently laid out process. You wouldn't do it just like that. Okay, when you are making a claim for a lower caste, the ritual status, you wouldn't want that it would be affected. Unless otherwise, you are somebody in a non-ritualistic job, maybe a God's job you are into, you wouldn't try to do much. I hope you have understood. Hanji sir. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Can you explain desanskritization? What exactly it is?
See, there are these terms, maybe I would dwell a bit on them. Not simply desanskritization, several others also. Later we will also get several other terms, Islamization. Sanskritization, desanskritization, tribalization, detribalization. Desanskritization is that process through which you are trying to give up your Sanskritic traditions. When I am saying Sanskritic groups, I am talking about the Dvija communities. I repeat, sir. I hope Sanskritization is clear to you. Sanskritization is clear. Lower people trying to imitate the upper people and trying to make a claim. The result of the claim is not the question for us. So meaning that the movements are both up and down. Based on your condition, based on what you want, you might try to move up or move down. In desanskritization, the upper caste or Varna tries to give up the Sanskritic traditions and make a claim for something else. And make a claim for something else. They generally go for desanskritization when it comes to tribalization process. So if you want to be if you want to make a tribal claim, maybe that you would try to change your location, your habitation, you would try to change your pantheon of gods, you might start worshipping the local tribal gods, or maybe perhaps you try to also take up the tribal occupations in addition to your other occupations, so that finally you can make a claim for being a tribal. So once again here, Sanskritization could be a process either for a tribe or for a low caste. Okay? If a tribe is going for Sanskritization, it should go for detribalization also parallelly. It's a two-way process. It is Sanskritization plus detribalization. Are you here, the crowd? I am trying to explain these words. Sanskritization can be for tribals or caste groups, low caste groups. If it is tribes, it should be a combination of detribalization, so tribe giving up its own identity and then going for accepting Sanskritic way of life. And then in the case of a low caste, it is a plain process of Sanskritization. So in the process of Sanskritization itself, whatever low caste, low Varna features are there, they try to give up. Now, coming to desanskritization, this is a process when a caste is trying to move towards either a tribe or an upper caste is trying to move towards a low caste. Am I clear to you? Desanskritization is a process where you are trying to give up your Sanskritic identities. You are trying to give up Sanskritic identities either in the tribalization process or claiming a low caste status. Hanji sir. Which one? Maybe perhaps. That's a different thing. Whether that is pseudo or real tribalism, that we will see. But for now, when I am using this word, tribalization, I am not trying to distinguish between whether it is pseudo or otherwise. Suppose you are giving up your Sanskritic tradition, meaning a desanskritization is happening, and you are accepting tribal ways of life. I don't think it is pseudo. You are for sure trying to project yourself as a tribal by giving up your Sanskritic practices. So I don't think that is pseudo. And then it can be like upper caste, giving up its Sanskritic traditions and trying to take up the low caste living or low caste whatever kind of. Now, when it comes to tribalization, here I may call the real tribalization or a pseudo-tribalization. Pseudo-tribalization is only a claim that you make without any kind of cultural changes. On the other hand, real tribalization is a process, something of this kind. You are giving up your own traditional Sanskritic living and trying to project yourself by adopting tribal ways of life. That is tribalization. Am I clear to you, sir? And then coming to the last one, detribalization. Maybe I have mentioned somewhere there. Detribalization is a process in which the tribe gives up its own tribal living and adopts something else. When it is adopting something else, it may be, in this case, it may be a Hindu caste living, it may be Christian life, it may be an Islamic life. So detribalization comes as a package there. Detribalization has several opportunities, chances there. Hindu caste Sanskritization is only one thing for them. It can be Islamization, it can be Christianization, or it can be anything else. Am I? Maybe so. It can be. So detribalization is you are giving up your tribal ways of life, adopting something else. What is that something is a case by case.
Ma'am, can we have these, you said it comes as package detribalization along with Sanskritization. Can we have only detribalization without Sanskritization?
Yeah, that's what I said. Desanskritization, detribalization can be either with Sanskritization or without Sanskritization. With Sanskritization is when you are adopting a Hindu caste life. Okay.
If they are converting into Christianity or Muslim, then there is without
It can, Sanskritization doesn't emerge there. Maybe you can call it Islamic model of Sanskritization or Christian model of Sanskritization, if at all you would want to particularly use that word there.
Is it religion particular Sanskritization word? Yeah.
Doesn't actually. That's the reason why there is one more thinker called Yoginder Singh. You can write the book's name. Next time when you go to the bookstall, touch that book and see. Yoginder Singh, Modernization of Indian Tradition. Modernization of Indian Tradition. The typical orange red colored book, Modernization of Indian Tradition by Yoginder Singh. She is an authority over writing about Islamization, Buddhist influence, and then Christianization, etc. So what he says is, he uses a different kind of a jargon for this particular case. The gentleman here is asking that if it is not a Sanskrit model, if it is not, meaning that if it is not a movement towards Sanskritization, a movement towards upper caste, in the detribalization process, if somebody is going for Islamization or Christianization, etc., what could be the term that you use? I may say that it is an Islamic model of Sanskritization or Christian model of Sanskritization, or in the words of Yoginder Singh, I may also call it an influence of Islamic great tradition or Christian great tradition. Suppose you have a reservation for using Sanskritization. If you think that when I say Sanskritic, it looks more like Hindu, no, I don't want to use it. So he says that it is something like Islamic great tradition or Christian great tradition.
Dalit model of Sanskritization and desanskritization.
You can say so. You can say one and the same. See, it all depends on your mindset, half glass full and half glass empty. When I am saying Dalit model of Sanskritization, I keep the Dalit there. I keep Dalit as somebody whom I have to imitate because you are superior to me. On the other hand, desanskritization as a Dalitization model, Dalit is down below, I have to come down to be treated on par with him, to get a position like him. हाँ जी मैम. जी मैम. Once again. Which one? Question is not clear. What other groups are there? क्वेश्चन ठीक नहीं, क्लास के बाद मिलना. Yes. Technically desanskritization doesn't happen, especially if you are trying to make a claim for a low caste status. Occasionally, if it is a tribalization, occasionally that too, there also it is not a rule. Occasionally, in the process of tribalization, you may become desanskritized. But desanskritization is a process that is not preferred. You would want to be recognized as a Dalit or a tribal, even without changing your cultures. That's a very valid point actually. Desanskritization looks to be a rather theoretical concept. We would come back on that in LP Vidyarthi. He was using this desanskritization.
Any interesting conclusions? If we have to write anything on this theme,
Sir.
if we have to write anything on this theme, Sanskritization, is there any
Our days are there in the future. We would write reams of information, not to worry. Sanskritization is a very big question. Once upon a time it was a 60 marker. See, the value of any concept, value of a thinker can be gauged based on what is the marks that are awarded to them. So if I say that Srinivas was a big man, he was a 60 marker. So if he was a 60 marker, he is a big man. When I say that NK Bose is a 20 marker, not so much. It's as simple as it is. So if a concept is for 10 marks, it's a small one. Am I allowed to go? Anything more? Margin Sayyali, handwriting. What you had written a little while ago was functions of dominant caste. Dominant castes often act as reference models to the lower caste groups. That is, lower castes imitate the upper caste behavior, ritual pattern, customs, etc., thus facilitating cultural transmission or diffusion. Come to the second one. Dominant castes of a particular locality. Dominant castes of a particular locality act as watchdogs of pluralistic culture. They set norms and regulations. They set norms and regulations for social life. Anyone who violates the norms is punished by the upper caste councils, by the dominant caste councils. Punished by the dominant caste councils. The dominant caste councils function both as mediators and adjudicators. Adjudicators there is, you judge also. Mediators, like you can talk to the mediator, communicate your view to the other. Adjudicators, both the parties are putting faith in that person, and then judgments are given. Thirdly, dominant castes are generally the power holders who establish contacts with the outsiders, such as government officials, political leaders, etc., and influence political process. Fourthly, dominant castes, because of their dominant position, exploit not simply the labor of the other castes, but also the developmental sources in their favor. The same Rangasthalam story. No? All the developmental schemes go in favor of the president, kind of a thing. Keep writing. They act as agents of rehabilitation programs, and in positive sense, can accelerate the process of socio-economic development. Fifthly, dominant castes set values and norms for the community. Traditionally, its primary functions are judicial and executive. They form a vital link between the villages and the world outside, and hence help in the socialization process with the outsiders. Sixthly, due to the dominant position in the rural society, they control the rural economy. In different ways. They play a greater role in the process of modernization. Sir, write down some case studies of dominant caste there. K.L. Sharma, study of Brahmins in the villages near Kanpur. He found that economically better caste groups are considered as dominant. Continue there. According to him, numerical strength and high ritual status are overpowered by economic status. He found that Brahmins of the region were both numerically and ritually higher, but were not considered dominant if they were economically poor. if they were economically poor. Secondly, study of William Weiser. William Weiser's study, 1963, in the village of Karimpur, UP. He found that Brahmins of Karimpur were considered dominant as they controlled maximum lands of the village. And hence, a ritual status alone was not making Brahmins dominant. Thirdly, study of Oscar Louis, 1955. Rampur village of UP. Write the name of the book there, Village India. He found Jats controlling all other castes, including Brahmins, due to their control over economic means of production. Right, another case study. M.N. Srinivas, Rampura village, Mysore. It is not necessary that high castes become dominant. He referred to Okkaligas who were low castes, O-double-K. Okkaliga who were the low castes, but due to having access to political and economic power, and their ways of challenging Brahmanical supremacy, came to be recognized as dominant castes. South India is an interesting thing actually, especially the Tamil Kannada country, where Brahmins were challenged time and again. Not simply a verbal challenge, they were successful in bringing down the Brahmanical supremacy. Continue writing there. Okkaliga caste councils could punish the Brahmins the Brahmins and even the other castes. And even the other castes. Right, in the next paragraph, continue there. Srinivas identified the role of dominant caste in social, economic and political spheres, making the concept more contemporarily relevant. Write a side head there. Critique or evaluation of the concept. Relevant. My heart will sink. Critique or evaluation of the concept. I have listed there a good lot of criticisms. You can scribble them. Where is that? Is it there? I don't know. So for Dubey, it is not, so for everybody it is not the entire caste. Everyone based on their own work have different preferences. For Dubey, dominant individuals. For the others, dominant lineages. For Roy Berman, dominant communities. Harrison and Nair say it is only a regional dominance of a particular caste, meaning that a caste may be dominant in one region, may not be in the other region. So if a Vellala is dominant in one region, it may not be dominant elsewhere. Alan Beale says only a few factions in a... Which one? Initially it is from Rampura. Initially it is from Mysore state. Initial work is Mysore state. But then he has a cross-checking from different parts of the country. So when he says that not the same caste is dominant everywhere and every region has got its own dominant caste, it is based on the comparison. So his personal study was one in Lucknow and then parts of other Kannada region, Tamil region. But in order to support that, you have good number of other examples from different parts of the country, where you see that, in one region a Kamma may be dominant, in one region Ahir may be dominant. So, it is true that caste exists everywhere. It is true that domination of caste is there. Domination of a particular caste is there. What is that particular caste varies from place to place.
He's asking the idea of dominant caste. I mean, is there story from any other part of the world? In African studies, it is about dominant lineage, dominant clan.
They say that, what was that? What's the last sentence you said?
Dominant clan, dominant lineages in African studies.
I do not know whether he was influenced by it. ఇప్పుడు రాజమౌళి గారు తీసినప్పుడు నువ్వు అక్కడి నుంచి కాపీ కొట్టావని చూపిస్తూ ఉంటే ఆయన ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్ అయ్యి ఉండొచ్చు, కాపీ కొట్టకుండొచ్చు కదా, ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్ అయ్యి ఉండొచ్చు. ఐ డోంట్ నో వెదర్ హీ వాజ్ ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్డ్ అండ్ ఐ డు నాట్ రియల్లీ వాంట్ టు సే హీ హాజ్ కాపీడ్. Karnataka.
So, ma'am, this is because they have political power, because of which they can punish Brahmins. Right?
political power doesn't come simply by the political power, you need to have money also. So political and economic power, they go hand in hand.
So ma'am, so when once this power, so say for example any caste again comes back, I mean, if it is not in power anymore, does that dominant caste still prevail as dominant caste, or that will also go down?
We are not simply talking about winning an election there. It is not simply winning an election. We are talking about how well versed you are with the developments around, whether you are able to speak about the justice, whether you are able to bring justice to the other communities. So it is not simply one election you are winning or not. It's not simply that. I hope you understand. Huh?
And in normal circumstances, when we see these parties in power, so this caste is becoming more dominant. So once it loses out on its political power, does that dominance still remains, or
No, don't simply link it with one election, sir. That's what I'm saying. Don't simply link it with one election. It's like, you don't know Telugu. That's the problem. See, just because, Bahubali you have seen? You've seen? Very good. In Hindi or in which language you've seen? Bahubali 2. When Prabhas was kicked out, he still remains a Raja. He still remains a king. It's the spirit of that kingship. So, a caste may be out of power in terms of modern democracy. It doesn't mean that its dominance has come down. It's only at one dark night it would go. I hope you have. Done? Write down. The above criticisms indicate that not the entire caste can be dominant. Not the entire caste can be dominant. But only the parts therein. Only the parts therein. The segments and fragments that grow dominant. The segments and fragments that grow dominant. Present an illusion of the entire caste being dominant. Of the entire caste being dominant. Srinivas explicitly states that in his concept of dominant caste, he never indicated that the entire caste can be dominant. It all depends on how the segments therein that grew to be dominant, G-R-E-W, that grew to be dominant, transmit the trait of dominance to the other caste members. Right, in the next paragraph. Nevertheless, ఏదేమైనప్పటికీ అన్నమాట. Nevertheless, The concept of dominant caste, even today, is considered important in understanding village India in particular, and social change in Indian society in general. Social change in Indian society in general. Full stop. That is in brief the concept of dominant caste. Can I move to the other one? We would make a small note on future of caste. Future of caste. In the notes that you are going to get, I already have added one note. Nevertheless, you can write this as well. Future of caste. Right on. In the changing Indian society, the traditionally recognized crux of Hindu society, that is caste system, seem to have attracted academic and political interest. In the process, certain dominant views emerged, such as, number one, the caste is something evil. Caste is something evil and it should be abolished. Secondly, caste system has degenerated. And efforts should be made to reinstate the traditional four orders. Thirdly, caste system should be continued. But it should be placed in the new conditions and requirements. Right, in the next paragraph. For Yoginder Singh, it is not really possible to predict the future of caste system in India. For Srinivas and Bailey, B-A-I-L-E-Y, for Srinivas and Bailey, caste system is an organic part of Hindu society. and hence becomes difficult to imagine a Hindu society without caste. For Ghurye, as caste has its negative traits, it shall not be encouraged to continue. It shall not be encouraged to continue. Right, in the next paragraph. The above views seem to be laden with different values. In traditional anthropological sense, any culture cannot and shall not remain static across time. Cultures change and have to change for their survival. The way traditional aspects modify themselves indicates the changing value system of the culture group. Right, in the next paragraph. In the present day society, because of industrialization, urbanization, modern education, modern means of transport and communication, remarkable changes have been experienced in the features of caste system, such as occupation, marriage, commensality, social intercourse, etc. At the same time, there are some factors such as emergence of political parties, method of election, constitutional provisions for SC/STs, and OBCs that gradually encourage the problem of casteism in Indian society. right in the next paragraph, and hence, caste seems to be of reducing significance in certain aspects, but gaining importance in the others. The future of the system depends on how these forces that make or break the system operate in relation to one another. Full stop. Are you okay? Sometimes, merely asking, how are you, solves the problem. Don't worry. We will have those days in the future where you will have complete 3 hours of dictation. And I am sure you will relish those days. Because at the end of the day, what you are carrying back home physically, that really matters. And today you may complain of writing, but tomorrow, after generations, what will remain will be what you have written. Ji ma'am. Intentions may be different, ma'am. See, when you are trying to introduce certain constitutional provisions, intentions may be different, but collateral damages might be there. You may be doing things with good intentions, but what might come out is the other way around also. If you stop your pleasantries, I can continue with my talk. Let me continue my discussion on the concept of Sanskritization. That is actually that book, Religion and Society Among Kurds of South India, 1952. That was the book in which Srinivas was for the first time talking about Sanskritization. Religion and Society Among Kurds of South India. So far, how many books, titles you have come across of Srinivas? This is one, of course. Caste and Other Essays. Remembered Village. And I think some book yesterday was showing Caste 21st Century Avatar. Maybe Caste and Caste Essays, the book. And one more essay we have come across in today's class, Dominant Caste in Rampura. So if at all, the question was asked earlier in the exam, contributions of M.N. Srinivas to the understanding of Indian society. Contributions of M.N. Srinivas to the understanding of Indian society. So I am sure some bit of understanding you got from him. The journey continues, many more things are there. So I said that he started with that concept of Brahmanization, wherein the low castes or Varnas were trying to imitate the Brahmanical ways of life so that they can move up the social ladder. Later recognizing that Brahmins are not the only fellows who are there at the top, recognizing the concept of dominant caste, he introduced the concept of Sanskritization, where he found that it is not simply Brahmins that are there as a model of imitation. It can be a Kshatriya model, it can be a Vaishya, it can be a tribal, it can be a Sudra model. When we actually write a proper note on Sanskritization, I would be giving you different examples under each of the models. But right now, I would be continuing with the talk so that I can introduce the other concept of Westernization as well. Look at your syllabus, chapter 5, paper 2. Indigenous and exogenous processes of social change. Indigenous and exogenous processes of social change, where he has mentioned Sanskritization, Westernization, and modernization. In one of the examinations, he had lifted the title, Indigenous and Exogenous Processes of Social Change. By this, what we mean? A social change is possible because of the developments from within, or maybe from the reasons from outside. Meaning that the enculturation, in the process of enculturation, when you are not comfortable with certain things from within, you might seek to modify the things from within. In this particular case, what he meant is the processes within the Indian subcontinent and those that have influenced from outside Indian subcontinent. So in that sense, a very basic categorization can be made that maybe Sanskritization is an indigenous process, and maybe Westernization and modernization may be the external processes. Because in Sanskritization we said that this is an effort that low castes and Varnas or tribes are making in order to move up the ladder by imitating the Dvija castes or Varnas. And then we said, the paraphernalia there. Now, he was trying to explain social change. In Sanskritization, there is some reference group. You are trying to imitate the reference group. By doing so, you are changing what you are. You are trying to present yourself in a different way from what you traditionally are. I am not really bothered about examples, and not that you will anyway get in the later class, but then people were not really happy with the concept of Sanskritization. So was the concept of Brahmanization. People said that you were trying to explain social change, you meaning Srinivas was trying to explain social change in India in a very narrow sphere by considering only the Hindu society. By considering only the Hindu society. The other factors, the non-Sanskritic factors, were neglected by him. Are you following what I am saying? Huh? Now, in response to that, he introduced the concept of Westernization in his book, Social Change in India. He extends the discussion in Social Change in Modern India. So those are two books actually. One was Social Change in India, Social Change in Modern India. So people were not happy with Brahmanization. He gave Sanskritization. In dominant caste, initially he thought that only a particular Brahmanical ritual communities were dominant, and then he had to modify the concept of dominant caste, where he was trying to say that even the low caste, even the scheduled caste can be a dominant caste. Now, when people were not happy with the Sanskritization, people said that you were trying to focus only on the Hindu community. The secular meaning non-Hindu ways of social change are not considered by you. Then he gave the concept of westernization. Now, in general parlance, if I am using the word westernization, many times what we may think is anything Western, imitating anything Western may be westernization. Imitating anything Western may be westernization. But in the context of Indian anthropology, when we are using the word westernization, we use it in the way Srinivas explained. And that is not the same as what we generally understand westernization, that is imitating anything Western. Okay, imitating anything Western is not westernization for us. So next time when you are using westernization word, you be cautious, you become more cautious, overcautious occasionally. Now I explained to you this particular term, westernization, in very loose words. I am not giving a formal definition there. What he meant by westernization was the social change which Indian society experienced due to about 150 years of British rule. And that social change that was evident either in the institutions, values, or technologies, or the social systems. I repeat what I said. He was writing this in 1950s and early 1960s, sir. For him, westernization was the impact of British rule on Indian society, impact of British rule because of its 150 years or so rule. And those changes that were evident in the values and ideas of Indian society or in the social institutions or other social systems. Am I clear to you, sir? So when I say westernization, it is the impact of the British rule. It is not everything that is Western. If at all I have to say westernization, maybe I will draw a line. Everything that is coming from west of my geography should be westernization. Everything coming from west of my geography is westernization. So Islam is westernization, Christianity is westernization, or anything that is coming from the Western world. Even Africa is to my west. America is to my west. Israel is to my west. Maybe if I am putting, even Japan may also be considered as Western for me. So, people were not happy even with this definition. Nevertheless, he tried to explain. For him, the British rule, see, he was trying to explain with very detailed examples of how westernization was giving an opportunity for people to change their fate. It's something like this. Technically, that is Sanskritization. Several things came into the minds of people. We will anyway be explaining what is westernization, etc. When people said that Sanskritization concept is not all inclusive, it is very skewed concept, not including the non-Sanskritic or secular elements, he used this word westernization. There is something else also here. In the process of Sanskritization, you are making an effort to move up. Result is not guaranteed. You are writing prelim main interview. You are writing. That is Sanskritization process. You are making a claim. Whether you got Sanskritized or not, finally depends on whether the society has accepted or not. You're there in that journey. Result is not assured. But then, when you are looking for westernization, see, it is something like this. When people down below are trying to move up, suppose they move up, what will he do? Where will he go? Should he come down? Should he stay there? He can't, because others are occupying your space. Maybe I look for some other. I would have to look for some other opportunity so that I claim much higher status. And now when this fellow is trying to move up there, the people who are down below, they might look at it from two perspectives. You are anyway vacating the space. I can quickly move up and occupy your space. That is one. The second group might think that how much ever I struggle here, result is not guaranteed. UPSC. Why not I go for software? Result is guaranteed. Social status may slightly vary. Westernization comes with a confirmation tag. Anybody can try. Whereas Sanskritization is available only for a few. That too, result is not guaranteed. You struggle how much ever you want, but result is not guaranteed. So people down below might think that, see, after a while, even if I move up, I think I look there that people are still there above me. Maybe I still have to move up. And anyway, that is westernization. Then why should I struggle with Sanskritization, get insults, being punished, violent mechanisms to look at me? Instead of that, I would go for westernization, which gives me a clear chit. So several questions come here. There was one very beautiful question, of course difficult to answer. The question was, explain how the interplay of Sanskritization and westernization, explain the interplay of Sanskritization and westernization in changing Indian society. Explain the interplay of Sanskritization and westernization in changing Indian society. Interplay is understood in different ways. One is it that Sanskritization and westernization come in succession? Meaning first I will try Sanskritization, first I try group 1, and then I try civil services. Many times it is the other way around. When you are preparing for civil services, you are there on the cloud 9. ఇంకేం కనబడదు, మిగతా అన్ని క్రిములు కీటకాల్లా కనబడతాయి. All other jobs are less than the insects and bugs. ఒక 2-3 అటెంప్ట్లు అయ్యాక బాగా, then you will understand that there are other jobs also. Then you will understand that I have to write the other exams also. Then suddenly every other job looks important. Constable దగ్గర నుంచి police, SIs, and then maybe IB, maybe CID, maybe something else, maybe a clerical in bank, IBPS becomes important, bank POs become important, ITBP becomes important, name it, everything becomes important for you, because after 2-3 attempts, security, job security, because you know, if you sleep at that time, if you are not alert at that time, you have to understand that for many other jobs there is a lower age limit. If at all you don't know this, for many other jobs there is a lower age limit, and hence even if you want to attempt at that time, you will not be able to. I made you think now. Given a chance, if anybody would walk up to me and ask me, should I prepare for UPSC? I have these things in mind. I say no UPSC. I do not want my boys and girls to waste their youthful years with UPSC. World is much bigger, much bigger. You can do wonders and marvels outside. I am not discouraging you if you have already decided. Because when you walk into this class, there are various things because of which you are here. Franz Boas says, if you are there at the same stage in history, at the same plane, you are there at the same plane not because of the same historical reasons. You are there at the same plane because of diverse reasons. One, maybe your father wanted you IAS. He could not, and hence you are. He pushed you right from standard 1, IAS and nothing else. He never allowed you to play Gilli Danda or that, which you wanted it actually. You wanted that. You couldn't do it. టైర్లతో ఆడుకోలేకపోయావు. Because your father never wanted. You could never wear a beautiful t-shirt. You were always wanted by your parent to be in that, trousers tucked in, because you have to be an officer. Because of your father you are here. Second, because engineering did not give you a job. Third, because you couldn't get an MS in US. In India you have to stay. What is there in India to do? Don't know. Maybe your neighbor became an IAS. So you thought that maybe you can also. A neighbor of yours who didn't know anything suddenly became IAS. You thought that when he can become an IAS, I can also. Franz Boas says, you're there at one particular plane in history, in time. You're there in the same position, not because reasons are same. And interestingly, I leave with that sentence today's class. If history is different, present is same. For different reasons in history, you are there at the same plane. Does it mean that our future will be the same? Because of different historical reasons, you are there at the same plane. Does it mean that our future will be the same? Because at one particular point of time in history, we shared the same plane. If that is the case, each one of us would become the civil servant or whatever we. Or maybe all of us would be in whatever. మళ్ళీ ఆలోచించుకోండి యూపీఎస్సీ రాయాలా వద్దా అని. సీరియస్లీ టేక్ మై వర్డ్. It calls for a lot of grit, a lot of courage and burning thing in your heart and your belly. Many people come and ask me how to keep myself motivated. What do I know? It's like, that gentleman was asked, Ambani was asked, and somebody was asked in a public meeting. She was asking him, what excites you? He says, how can I tell you in the very open? That's my private affair. How can I tell in public what excites me? So I don't know how to keep you motivated. Only thing is, maybe perhaps think of your failure. What will happen if you fail? Then I think automatically you'll jump from your bed and sit to study. Maybe your father would not send you the next month's pocket money. What will you do? So you'll have to study. Sir, I will be continuing with your thing in your next lecture. The next lecture you will be writing beautifully on Sanskritization, Westernization and Modernization. The 3 concepts we will be doing in that class. Monday. Yeah, we are doing with the planner. Let me do it. 22nd today. Paper 2, chapter 3. We wrote a note on dominant caste, and we wrote on future of caste. I had introduced the concept of Sanskritization and Westernization. Sources will be largely your class notes and maybe perhaps your second booklet. Have a great weekend. Watch movies and enjoy.